Hello, this is Stacy Dockins. Welcome to today's interview with Deborah Adele. Deborah is the author of The Yamas and Niyamas, which is a book widely known in the yoga world. Her book is known for its beautiful simplicity and its ability to translate ancient yogic practices into practical, everyday life. All right, here we are with Deborah Adele, the author of The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practices. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Stacy.
First of all, I'd like for you just to share just a little bit about just a general overview of what the Yamas and Niyamas book is about.
Okay. I was in yoga a long time before I really understood or knew that yoga has an ethical system, and it's called the Yamas and Niyamas. And it actually comes out of a belief that if we're not practicing some kind of way of being ethical in our relationships, that we really we don't even belong on our mat or doing a yoga practice. It's like these noble vows that it was thought people needed to take, or it's just assumed you were taking in order to do your practice. So it's really a guideline for relations. There are 5 what's called yamas, which means restraints, like nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. And they really start us out, I think, by saying what to not do. And I think of it as Patanjali saying to us, who is the author of the sutras where we find these, is just saying to us, just stop making things worse than they are. Like step 1, just like restrain yourself from causing disturbance in the environment that you're in and in the relationship you're in. And that includes the relationships with yourself. And then the niyamas are the next 5, and not restraints, so we call them observances. And I actually think about them as learning to like broccoli. Like cultivating these finer ways of harmony and contentment for the mind to feast on. It's sort of like a nourishing diet for the mind. So for those of us who have tried to up our diet from junk food to more greens, that's kind of, I think, the experience we have. We get used to junk food and the addiction to sugar, and we get used to our addiction of chaos and being messy in our relationships. And so this whole process of weaning the mind off of the chaos and disturbance and moving us into a finer taste for the mind, better nourishing food for the mind, so that we can find these places of contentment and harmony. I mean, we're seeking harmony in yoga. That's sort of the bottom line. And so I find that the yamas and niyamas, and I think that's their purpose, along with just creating a better world, an environment. It's to take us to a place on our mat, a place in our meditation practice that we have more availability to the subtleties of what yoga offers us, because our mind isn't so disturbed. And because I told so-and-so that I would go to a movie with them, and I really don't want to go to the movie, so I go to my mat, and all I'm thinking about is how do I get out of it, and I don't want to do it. It's that kind of paying attention to those little details of our life that actually do create a lot of chaos or a lot of harmony.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what I want to review. Yeah.
There's so much, and I so appreciate the book. With my teacher trainings that I've been doing for the past 10 years, it's a required book for our training. And so
that's great.
Yeah, and it's just, in the beginning when I first started training yoga teachers, I attempted to teach, even the yamas and niyamas and the Yoga Sutras in different ways, and it worked okay. But when I found your book, and I believe I found your book from my friends Nick and Mandy that own the yoga studio in La Crosse, Wisconsin, Ridge on. Yeah, so they introduced me to your book, and it really created such a real life application for our students that we were working with to be able to relate to these principles so much easier. And it has provided such rich discussion for all of our trainings that we have found so valuable, and everybody really loves your work. So thank you for that, for making it so practical, because it can be such a daunting thing to study. If we just pick up really any translation of the Yoga Sutras. It's like it's a lot to take on, and so yes, absolutely. And I think too, when the way you describe the practice of the mind and this, clearing out the old stuff and welcoming in new, I think that also it really moves yoga from a practice of healing from just a physical level to really approaching healing from a whole nother mental aspect, which we don't even know the totality of that, really this day and age. So I really love that about it. And I wanted just to hear a little bit about your early days of yoga and a little bit of your yoga journey. I know that you're also a 500-hour ERYT, and you have trainings in several different types of yoga and meditation and different body practices. So I'd like to just hear a bit about the beginning of your journey and how you've gotten to where you are now. Okay, so yeah, let's hear a little bit about your journey.
I found yoga late. I was in my, I can't remember, mid to late 40s. And all my life, I've been hungry for answers, for understanding. So I was, what we all use the word seeker, but this sense of wanting to know and being hungry for something that felt like it was missing. So I've been this ardent student since I can remember. When I walked into my first yoga class, it was like that was the place that answered the longing, or I knew would answer the longing. And what I found through time and staying with yoga was that it gave me both the philosophical framework for understanding the things about the human condition and about human possibility. And it also gave me the tools to move through this, through my life in a way where things became more harmonious and more clear, where I was just a nicer person to myself and to everyone around me, where I found more caring for others in the world. So V.S. Houston, who's with the American Sanskrit Institute, he talks about when we practice yoga the way Patanjali gave it to us in the Yoga Sutras with that Eightfold Path. He said it's like the certainty of freedom. It's like if you had a blueprint to build a bridge or to build a house, you would know if you followed that blueprint that you would have the house. It would look the way you had designed it to look. And I find that is what yoga has given me in a way that I identify with so strongly. It's like it's this. Pay attention to all these things. These are the things that might take you off the path. These are the ways you're going to know you're on the path. And it's that whole idea of waking up and looking forward to the practice on the mat and the cushion, but also looking forward to everything in life, because it all becomes practice. It all becomes part of building the house or building the bridge. And I'm just so grateful for that. I mean, that's really the gift that I'm finding. And so I really jumped in with quite a lust and a passion to have found it at that late of age. But it certainly has filled
What I was going to say is that for me, I know I found my way to yoga. It was very much a physical thing in the beginning. Like I didn't really know the totality of what yoga had to offer. I just had heard that maybe I'd feel better if I did yoga. So it was very much a physical thing. And then as time went by, I started to understand and learn more. And I see that with a lot of our students, that they show up, whether it's getting in shape or just feeling physically better. It's really, a lot of people aren't showing up for this other full life or mental aspect that's happening, that is the totality of yoga. Would you say that it was like that for you? Did you show up in the beginning just as a physical practice?
Yes, because that's the only way it came to me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's changing, which I'm really excited about, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of trainings, a lot of workshops. So people are getting this this lifestyle quicker than I think was available when I started. But yes, it was definitely that way. And I was just touching the kind of relaxation, the kind of self-awareness, the kind of pause and reflection. That was the beginning of it for me, for sure. And I see that too.
And I think it's actually a really beautiful thing. I mean, even though we understand and practice yoga from a different place of it being more than just a physical practice, I think it's a beautiful thing that people show up just as a physical practice, because it gets people into the practice. We have this immediate need in our physical body, and whether it's from, relief from pain or whatever it may be. And so I think that's kind of neat, and that people just show up looking for that one piece.
Yes, I so agree with you, Stacy.
Yeah.
I so agree. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the next things I want to talk about is that, as I had told you, a big emphasis in this course is embracing a practice that translates from the mat into the moments of our lives. And really, I think your book is all about that. It's all about taking a practice from the mat into our moment-to-moment life. So do you have anything else to share about that translation, like from the actual mat to the moments?
I think what I began to understand with the yamas and niyamas is it's really a conversation with our own particular life. And the more we have that in community, the more we have insights into our own life, or we get ideas from other people. So the communal practice and discussion I find to be very important. But having this conversation with our own life, it's like we all, I think, benefit from so-called writing our own book about the yamas and niyamas. So there's a way that just the practice of that, the conversation of it, begins to take yoga off the mat and into our lives. But I remember the very first time I realized I was going to yoga, I was feeling calm like I never had. I'm a driven person who tends to, well, at least my MO, pre-yoga, which yoga is calming it, but my MO is driven and irritable and impatient. And I remember going somewhere and being in a traffic jam. And it was like 6 months after my first class. And something magic happened in that moment. And that was that all of a sudden, I was given the capacity to watch myself in that moment, which was a brand new experience. And so I watched what this impatience was doing in my body. I could feel the racing in my body. And I remember thinking, well, that's not a very good thing to do to yourself. And it's probably not helping anybody around. And I started translating to other people and thinking about, well, they're stuck too. And just how do we all relax together? And it was, could I feel like I did after my yoga class? And so it was that sense of being able to watch and knowing I had a choice. And that was a powerful moment for me. But the other thing I've noticed too, my spouse and I have lived in this home for 26 years. And we have some difficult neighbors who have lived here for that long also. And I noticed that I was so upset with them all the time in the beginning. And something, I call it the grace of the practice. It's just, there's a lot of grace that comes. And I have noticed that even though it's not less difficult, there's this sense in me of kindness, compassion, of wondering what their lives must be like, of really doing little kindnesses for them. And that's magic to me. I think part of it is the grace, but also part of it is yoga has helped me look at my own moral weaknesses. And that's a huge piece, is to, it's just so easy right now in these times with our administration and the polarity to not look at ourselves, but to look at how ridiculous other people, other ideas, other things seem to us. At least that's my experience. And yoga is very fundamental, I think, in just saying, whoa, don't put yourself in the good apple basket and them and the other people in the bad apple. Let's look at yourself and your own moral weaknesses. And there's something for me in coming clean with that, which I think is part of that yamas and niyamas work, part of meditation. But it's just to grow compassion, to grow my sense of connection to other people. And I think it's also that whole process. I feel like if you could ask me what's changed more than anything, it would be I feel more human. I feel like I'm just really happy to do the dishes, and I'm really happy to be ordinary. And there's something in that relaxing back into my humanity instead of that seeking after so much that I used to seek after, that has connected me more with the world and the care of what's happening, and just a real compassionate feeling that stems out of that. It's so.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that the way you said it, relaxing into humanity, is like this understanding of common humanity. And when you're in this practice of yoga, which a vital part of it is self-observation, like you described in your being in traffic, like that self-observation, those moments of those initial moments of seeing ourselves are pretty magical. Like, oh, wow, I'm doing this and I do this a lot. And wow, I can see the way it feels in my body. I can see the way it's making me see the people around me. I can see the way it's making me do everything that I'm doing. And it's such an amazing, humbling discovery when we start to see those things within ourselves. And as you mentioned, it's this understanding of we can't see that in ourselves. I refer to it often as just the human mechanism. Like, we can't see that within ourselves and how we work without having more compassion and understanding for others. Wouldn't you say? It's like we start to see, I think you said, our moral weaknesses. And that when we start to see that in ourselves, then we start to say, wait a minute, oh, we are all very similar. And we just have different perspectives, different views of, where we're coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And I think that, with this day and age of such a visible yoga world, and there's with social media and Instagram and all of the, it's so photogenic based, there's so many yoga photos. And I think that it's so tempting to base our yoga practice off of the success of our physical postures. But I think you'd agree from what you just said that it's so much more about how are our relationships, how are we seeing ourselves and other people, and how are we feeling with our overall humanness. That's really the marker of our practice, wouldn't you say?
I absolutely would. And the sense even of postures, when we look at what Patanjali was telling us in the Yoga Sutra, he just does 3 sutras about postures. And that first one is steady and comfortable. It's like all we're doing in all of our postures is to find steady and comfortable, as you know, in everything, so that we're steady and comfortable when we're irritated. We're steady and comfortable in challenge. We're steady and comfortable when we're talking in front of people. We're steady and comfortable, whatever the case. Can we bring that to the challenges of the world, that's steady and comfortable? And if we can work from that place, wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And finding that steady and comfortable, it's amazing how many self-observances there are for us to see along the way, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that reminds me, Stacy, For me, one of the big ahas for me in yoga was this idea that it's really a subtraction. It's not an addition.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first realized, I think in this culture, at least the way I've been raised and where I've lived, it's this sense of attaining. And I even went after my yoga practice that way. Like I'm missing something and I need to get something. I need to get something and go to this workshop and then I'll find that. But the sense when I really understood what I think Patanjali is saying is we're already full, complete, content. We have already connected. And so the question then becomes, what's in the way of me really knowing that, of me really living it? So it becomes a subtraction, as you were saying, of what's in the way of me being steady and comfortable. What's in the way of me being kind to my neighbor? I mean, it's an endless kind of, but it's like an exhalation instead of an inhalation. And that sort of, falling back into the practice instead of pushing into it has been a really huge shift for me.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think I can relate in some of the pre-yoga type anus, and not that it's all the way gone away from me. It's a little part of who I am, but I see it much more clearly now. So that's good, at least. So I want to move on. One of my favorite chapters in your book is the Svadhyaya self-study practice. And you mentioned meditation as an important aspect of self-study. Can you share just your opinion or the way you see meditation, your practice of meditation, and how it fits the overall practice from the mat and into the moments of life? Just anything you'd like to share on that.
I think that meditation is the heart of the practice. I think that everything we do is to be able to meditate. So the yamas and niyamas, our practice of pranayama, our practice on the mat with postures, all of that is to prepare us. It's like a training of the mind. It's a training of harmony so that we can sit and access those subtler regions in ourselves. And I think meditation comes to us in yoga as to actually experience that we are source, or however we want to say that, our connection to the divine. There are a lot of ways that we can say that, but it's to actually have that experience. But the interesting thing for me is, at least as the way I've been experienced, I have beautiful moments in meditation of that, moments of that taste of that connection. But I also think what it's done for me more than anything is to show me my conditioning and to show me my complicity in my complaints about my life, to show me my complicity in the things that I feel powerless about. And I watch where my mind goes. So I get to look at my mind. When the outer world gets closed off, I get to see really the contents of my mind. And if I understand yoga, I think what Patanjali is saying ultimately is that yoga is a mind training program. And that's how I say it to myself. Because when our mind is undisturbed, and when it's just resting in this tranquility, then we rest in our true nature. But until then, we have all these disturbances going on. And that's the disturbances we feel in meditation. So when I'm sitting there, I'm not really trying to figure out or anything, but I can see what's getting in the way of me just dropping into this beautiful place of being absorbed in the divine. Again, it's all the conditioning. It's all the self-centeredness, the selfishness, the attachments are a huge one. The preferences, it goes on. And so I get to actually experience in meditation what the yogis are writing about in philosophy. It's like, oh, there it is.
Right.
This is why I'm not resting in the divine, because I'm too busy with all of this stuff. So then yoga becomes this way of dealing with the things that are in the way and creating more and more harmony. Because when we understand this, nothing becomes of more value than having this harmonious, tranquil mind. And the things that used to hook us or upset us don't seem worth it anymore, because we want something different. We want this peacefulness, this tranquility, this sense of this pause that we're starting to feel from our practice. That's how I experience it for myself. I made it a we, but that's my experience.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, in a way, it's another view, another way of seeing our human mechanism, again, always relating back to common humanity. So when we're just able to see, like you said, the busyness that happens when we just attempt to sit down for 10 minutes, sit on a cushion for 10 minutes and notice our breath. And it's amazing what arises. And I think that, I'm always experimenting and playing with different ways of sharing meditation with people. And I think that there's so much confusion about what meditation is, and frustration about how to approach meditation. Do you have any tips for beginners in meditation that are brand new, just starting out practice?
It's really, I had a teacher say this one time, it's like taking a shower for the brain. And so when we get it's just getting rid of the dirt. It's like getting rid of the dirt. So when we take a shower, we just automatically do that. We clean our bodies, we wash off with soap or whatever our routine is, but we don't look down the dirt and look down at the drain and go, oh my gosh, that was a huge chunk of dirt. Where did that come from? How do I fix that? We don't do that. And it's the same, we will experience the craziness of our mind when we meditate. It's why a lot of us feel worse when we start meditating instead of better. Mm-hmm. We think we're going backwards, but we're actually just stepping into the reality of our own disturbance and chaos in our mind. And so when we meditate every day, it's just it's that same routine of letting the water run over the mind and getting rid of the dirt. It's getting rid of all that junk in the unconscious, getting rid of the resentments we've carried, getting rid of the prejudices we've carried. It's cleaning all that. And that's what's so, I think, huge for a beginner and all of us to remember is it's so different in the West, because we always think when something comes up, we have to fix it or we have to analyze it to death. Mm. And what I think the yogis are saying to us is, no, just let it happen. Trust it. Watch it if you're aware of it. But just the witness is the healing of it. That is the healing. And that's like the shower. You just wash off, the dirt comes off, and you just know the next day you need another shower. And it's just, to me, that's a really cool way to think about it. Even at later stages, it's just.
Yes. I love that. I think you mentioned that in your book. I can't remember if it's in the self-study chapter, maybe, or maybe I can't remember, but I love that I remember you talk about that. And it's such a relief to finally come to that understanding of it's the witnessing that does the unraveling. Like as soon as the moment we witness it, the moment shift begins, instead of seeing it and needing to figure out how to fix ourselves really quickly. And I love that, because we can get so caught up in this practice of self-improvement, always having to fix ourselves and wrong ourselves to make ourselves better.
Exactly. The other image I really like is the trash can. That at the bottom of the trash can is this diamond, which is our true self, which is our God self, whatever. And through our life, we just put in all the trash over it. And so yoga is about taking out the trash and just getting rid of all the trash so that you can rest in this diamond, so you can get the diamond, basically.
Yes.
And the thing that is so great about that analogy for me is that when you realize you're sitting in meditation to take the trash out, it becomes a little bit ridiculous to live your life in such a way that the rest of the day you're putting trash in. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, when yoga becomes this constant practice of taking trash out and in our meditation practice and keeping it out in our day-to-day paying attention to exactly what's coming out of our mouth and what our thoughts are and what our actions are. So they were into mindfulness and presence and
right. And there becomes no separation between our mat practice and our seated morning meditation practice and our moment to moment. I mean, that's really the hope, is that we come into it in that totality. Yeah. So
yeah, it all becomes yoga. Yes.
Yes.
It all becomes spiritual practice. The dishes, everything. It's
everything.
Just,
yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Do you have any, are you on sabbatical now that I see that you're on?
Sabbatical now.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm spending a lot of time in pause and reflection and my little flower garden and
wonderful.
being ordinary.
Yes.
And things that become sparse when I'm traveling a lot. And yeah, I am writing a lot. It's too soon to know if it will be a book or exactly the shape of it, because it's finding its voice. But I am very passionate right now about what's happening in the world. And because for me, it's so disjointed between the possibilities of this marvelousness of being a human being and what we're capable of for compassion and for community and for allowing as much of nature and people and animals to thrive. And so there's that disjoint has me really captivated right now.
It's definitely providing a lot of a contrast that's creating a calling, I think, for many.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And a lot of self-reflection for all of us. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Very interesting time. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today. And it was really a pleasure to finally speak with you after just knowing your work for so many years. And I really enjoyed connecting with you.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Stacy. And good luck with your project. It's just, it's fabulous what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Part of it and watching it,
Yes.
learning from it.
Yes, thank you.